At the beginning of the course, we spoke a lot about the malachos and all these things that you don't do. And indirectly, we've kind of spoken about how that gives you the space to have Oneg Shabbos. But now I want to make that bridge a lot more concrete. How is it that refraining from doing all these things actually gets you to Oneg and joy? That's what I want to speak about today. So we're going to take a look at a piece of the Piazetzner Rebbe. It's not very long. And then afterwards, I'll show you how this has some parallels for how to experience Purim at a very high level. Just one page. Oh yes, if someone can please start an attendance sheet. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, I didn't have one from last class.
No, I wrote everyone's.
Oh, did you get me
on there? Oh, no. I didn't know where it is.
So you wrote almost everyone.
I gave it to you.
I'll see after the class if I still have it from Monday. What was the date? Okay, so if you need to amend it here, that's from last class. All right. Let's begin with the Piazetzner Rebbe. The Piazetzner Rebbe says, this is one of the areas where he speaks about the inner world of our consciousness and how to be able to shape it and in the way that we want it to be. How can a person come to an awakening and revelation of the divine spark within him without being stirred by his own personal needs? So, let's introduce this idea.
This is not on the one from like last class, like in our class. She's on this one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to find the Aleph one later.
Monday.
Oh, okay. Fine. Okay. Well, that's the one from Shabbos on Monday. So, all right. Let's get into Piazetzner mode.
This is from another day.
All right. Inside all of our consciousness, inside the way the human mind works is the following. At the core of human consciousness, there is something called the spark of the divine. Every human being, in fact, every living thing is animated by something that is a reflection of divinity. Are we having problems with the attendance sheet? You know what? Let's deal with it after the class because I realize we only have so much time and then we'll deal with it afterwards. Okay? Is that okay? Good. All right, fantastic. Okay. If we were to map the human mind, the human consciousness, everything is built around a divine spark which animates human beings, really all living things, but there's something that humans uniquely possess, the neshama, whatever you want to call it. There's a part of the divine that is what allows us to be alive and to have our unique self-consciousness and self-awareness, and that's what makes us into a human being. This is an idea that is expressed all over the place. You'll see it a lot in Chassidus. The Tanya speaks a lot about this metaphor of God being the sun and human souls being, in a certain sense, the rays of the sun. So in the same way that the rays of the sun are not the sun itself, they are a manifestation, they're an expression of the sun. Now, as I said in the last class, every metaphor is limited and doesn't capture perfectly the idea that it's trying to express, but it helps us give a sense of like, well, what does it mean? What's my relationship to God? Am I a piece of God? Am I a spark of God? So in this understanding, there is some emanation, some reflection, some ray of godliness that is your soul. Now, surrounding that part of godliness is you, your own DNA, your own personality, the habits that you've grown up with, the nature, the nurture that your parents have given you, the external environment and the the culture that you've grown up with. All of those things create your unique personality. And that involves things like, I'd love to go out and get a tan today. And my favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. There you go. And my favorite band is AC/DC.
Not my favorite band.
Yeah, or One Direction. I thought you were all going to say like, Mordechai Ben David or something like that. Yeah, he's a singer. Okay, fine. But in any case, you all have these personal, individual preferences and ways of being and ways of behaving that are almost like a clothing for that divine spark that sits at the center of who you are. And so this divine spark is now filtered through these own personal individual needs. And that's what makes up your personality. Now, the Piazetzna wants to know, if I want to have a relationship with God, a connection to the divine, what's the fastest route to get there? Do I look out at the beautiful skies and nature and try to understand how much love there is in the universe? Do I contemplate the incredible depth of the Torah and Kabbalistic wisdom? What's the fastest way to get to a relationship, a connection with the divine? Yeah.
There is no one way, fastest way. I think it's unique to each person.
Okay, so there are different people who will take to different things, absolutely. But if you want to find the closest way to connect,
something within you.
it's within you. It's already there. It's already inside you. This, by the way, takes up the bulk of the meditation of the book, the Tanya. When Moshe tells the Jewish people in Devarim, he says, "Ki lo rechoka mimecha," this thing is not far from you. Ki elecha, right? Ki karov elecha davar ma'od. This thing that I'm speaking to you about is very close to you. Beficha uvilvavecha elasos, right? It's inside of you. This thing that I'm speaking about to you is not far away. It's inside of you. And so you don't have to go out there and look outside of yourself to be able to find Hashem. You can find something divine that's inside of you. This is why meditation is so powerful, is because a lot of people are like, where's God? How do I find God? How do I know God exists? And the simplest answer is look inside. Look inside. One way of thinking about this without meditation, right? One rabbi gives a thought experiment, says, there's the moment that you're sitting on a plane and it starts jerking heavily and you get a little bit nervous and you start thinking, I don't want to die. I want to live. The moment that you recognize the I that's real inside of you, that's something divine. There's something that's really you, that's really real, that nobody else can deny. This is what a lot of people suggested Descartes was saying when he said, I think, therefore I am. What he's really saying is the one thing that you cannot deny. If I'm aware that I'm thinking, there's no way that I'm made up. At least I know that. If I'm thinking about my existence, the fact that I can think about my existence means that there's a me. That's what he's saying. So if I can grab onto that, then I know that there's something that is irrefutably real about me. That's the divine. That's the divine. Now, how do we get there? Because everyone wants to have, people who are spiritually aspiring people, they want to have an experience like that. Anybody who's ever had a spiritual experience will say that it is among the most profound experiences they've ever had in their lives. So people want that. People want to have that experience of clarity, of love, of awe. It's overwhelming. So how do you get there? That's what the Piazetzna Rebbe wants to know. So how do you do that? How do you come to an awakening without being stirred by your personal needs? Because we said there's so much clothing that is cloaking that divine spark that's inside of you that it's very often crowded out by, I'm hungry and I want to have a good career, and what are they going to think of me if I wear this or that? And that's really a separation. That's keeping me away from this overwhelmingly wonderful, loving, awe-inspiring, all-encompassing experience of the dissolution or the bounding of your ego inside of something much, much greater. How do you get there? Even beyond speech, this can be achieved by pausing for a full hour before prayer. So there's a Mishnah that says that these great pious people used to spend an hour meditating before tefillah, before they pray. Why? Why does this help? This is what he's going to talk about. For as mentioned above, every Jew truly has within him a portion of divinity in all aspects of his life, only that a person conceals it through his thoughts, desires, and all of his affairs. This is what we're saying, right? There is something genuinely there, but it's hard to access often because our outer ego keeps us distracted with all the smaller things. So how do we get there? As a result, even holiness, such as the holy trait of awe, when it is revealed to him through his own matters, appears to him as a fear that others might see him. So in other words, what he's saying here is like, you may think that the reason why you don't break the law is because you're a God-abiding citizen. But really, you're just a law-abiding citizen. The fact that you keep kosher, maybe you think that it's because you have yiras shamayim. Really, maybe it's just because you're afraid of what your friends and family will think of you. So even yiras shamayim can be clothed by our own personal desires of reputation and discomfort and things like that. So everything has the potential to be revealed, but it's covered by a lot of layers. How do we break through the layers? But if a person were to stand still and interrupt the constant flow of his thoughts and desires for just 1 hour, the translation here is sha'a achas, which is either translated as an hour or a moment. It's hard to know. A sha'a is a good chunk of time, let's call it. Instead of saying that it has to be dafka an hour, because even it's hard to meditate for a full hour. It's like not easy. But if you stopped and you tried to slow down the constant flow of thoughts that are going through your head for a period of time, start with 5 minutes, work your way up to 10 minutes, the divine spark within him would become visible without any concealment. Now think about this. If I ask you, how do you access God? And you'd say, you have to think about this, and you have to think about that, and you have to have this kavana and that kavana, and concentrate on a pasuk, or think about the divine name of Hashem, or do all of these things. The Piazetzner Rebbe is actually telling you it's way simpler than that. He's saying that there's nothing you have to add, you only have to subtract.
It's harder.
Maybe.
I feel like it's easier.
It's less, it's more, I'll tell you like this. We may not have practice at it, which is why it's hard. We're not practiced in learning how to think about our thoughts, see them, and allow them to be pushed to the side or moved away gently.
But is that what he's saying?
But what he's saying is, if a person was able to silence all of the chatter that's going inside of you all the time, you would be left with pure blinding light of God. It's a matter of subtraction. This is what's so groundbreaking about what he's saying. It's a matter of subtraction. If it's already in there, then all you have to do is learn how to just peel away some of the layers. Just take things away, as opposed to you need to fill yourself with this and fill yourself with that. Yes, Ariella.
Are we unable to connect to Hashem fully though? We still have
That's right.
fear.
In this week's Parsha, Moshe says, show me your glory. And God says, I'm sorry, nobody can see my direct face and be alive. It's not possible. But the thing that's inside of you is already clothed, spark of Hashem. Remember, it's the ray of light. It's not the sun itself. You can't stare at the sun, but you can tap into that ray of light. And the way to do that is to peel away the layers, not to add on. But however, because we chase our thoughts, worrying about what you'll do tomorrow, how you'll earn a living, how you'll gain honor, reputation, his thoughts flow continuously without pause. Our ego self makes it so that all of these thoughts, what is translated as machshavas, they are never ending. And so it's very difficult, Chaya, yes, like you said. If we're not well practiced, it's very, very difficult to stop that stream of consciousness, that flow of ideas and thoughts that are always constantly popping into your head. And I guarantee you, if you just stop to think about it and listen to what your brain is doing at any given moment, you sound like a crazy person. Like you are always thinking about, what about this? And what about that? What about my ex-boyfriend? What about the TV show I watched 5 years ago? What about the shopping list? What about and it's like, what are you doing? Where is that coming from? But this is what our brains are subjecting us to all the time. Not through any particular fault of our own. That's how we're designed. But oftentimes it's very useful. The mind is an excellent tool. And when you use it as such, it can help you do wonderful things and solve a lot of problems. The problem is that the mind itself keeps running even when you no longer need it. And so what a lot of the mindfulness meditations and a lot of these ideas are trying to get you to do is to recognize, learn how to put the tool on pause when you don't need it anymore. So this is what he's saying. He's saying if you were able to put that brain tool on pause, to slow down the sequence of thoughts, to let the inner mind be quiet, then what you would find would be immediately the divine. Immediately. This is what the Mishnah means when it says, do teshuvah one day before your death. What does this mean? Now remember, the word teshuvah means return, right? Return to what? Godliness, the divine, all of that stuff. That's why Yom Kippur is supposed to be, a whole incredibly holy day of the year, because the act of doing teshuvah should be this blissing out experience of spiritual ecstasy. That's what Yom Kippur is supposed to be. So what does it mean, do teshuvah one day before your death? A person should consider in his mind that, God forbid, there may not be a tomorrow, right? If I say today is the day before my death, right? Not literally. But what I mean is, let me act as if there is no tomorrow. My brain is so busy thinking about tomorrow, I cannot live in the present. Therefore, you should not dwell on tomorrow and be troubled by such thoughts. So when the Mishnah says, do teshuvah one day before your death, the Piasetzner Rebbe is turning this into a meditation technique. He's saying, act as if there is no tomorrow to think about. And the only thing that there is to think about left is what's going on right now, in this very moment. In another essay of the Piasetzner, where he actually elaborates a lot more on the meditative technique that he uses, he says, what you can do is you can silently say to yourself, Ma ani choshev. What am I thinking? What am I thinking right now? And in that way, you can identify the thoughts that are passing through your head. This is the problem that a lot of people talk about when they first start meditating. Is the beginning is, I can't differentiate. I can't really look inside my brain. Eventually, it's like a muscle. And you start to develop this muscle, which is what people call the witness, the observer. There's the you that's almost sitting inside of the movie theater of your brain, and you can watch the thoughts being projected onto the screen of what's going on, what's appearing inside of your head. But the beginning of the process is to actually separate you from your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. You have emotions. You have bodily sensations. There's a you that's experiencing those, but that means that you, the you, is now empowered to say, let's put that thought away for later. Let's put that emotion away. Let's quiet that emotion down a little bit right now. It's easier said than done, right? Especially when you're really worked up emotionally. It's much easier to work on your thoughts, because thoughts can be brought in and out. Emotions leave a deep impact on us, and it takes a lot longer to let an emotion fade away, but it is also possible. One of the ways to do that is to seed your mind with positive thoughts, or thoughts that will invoke emotions that you want to have at a given moment. So one of the things that I suggest people do is to keep a list of 3 or 4 beautiful memories that they have. And if at any moment in your life you feel like you want to kind of hit a reset button emotionally, you can cycle through those beautiful memories and really live them, really re-experience them. And that will actually help you to clear up some of, if there's an emotion that you're experiencing that you realize is not healthy in that moment to have. Yes.
It's interesting what you said about living your life like as if there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have this like term YOLO kind of. That's like the opposite end. But one thing I noticed.
In one sense, it's true.
Right.
Right.
Right. One thing I noticed last week, we went to the Nova festival site.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that were, killed there, a lot of them on their headstones, or not the headstones, they had like these memorial cards for them. A lot of them I saw had different variations of that quote, like live your life as if today is like the last. I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of rabbis who have come out and said that the people that were there to find this like meditative experience to what it was, it was Simchat Torah. Whether they recognize that or not is not totally relevant, but there's some soul searching they were doing to like have that experience. I think it's really interesting that a lot of them, like their motto was that, and like even on their last day they were experiencing that.
There's something about the idea that a whole bunch of Jews were going to a music festival on a day which, if it had been taught properly, people might have been more inclined to look for that spirituality in the holiday itself. But because we're not offering this to people, how many of you have heard this? How many of you, this is the first time you're ever hearing something like this coming from a Torah source? Okay, well, you guys are pretty switched on. So good for you that you've heard spiritual ideas. But I guarantee you most people are not learning this stuff in yeshiva, right? And this is not what we're teaching as part of Judaism. And so it's a failure on our part that they have to go to a music festival, which is bound up in a whole lot of other unhealthy, hedonistic things. Right. It's not just all pure spirituality and finding the divine. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's the people who develop and work on being spiritual seekers are very much tuned into the now and the present. The thing is that we are Jews and we do have brains and we can think about the future. And so we have to constantly be oscillating depending on when it's good for us to think about how to solve problems and how to build the world and how to be responsible adults. And then to be able to stop and say, let me zoom out, focus on the present, realign myself, hit the reset button, come back to who I truly am. The Kuzari says that tefillah is a reset button. Your body needs to return to its source. It needs to get a little bit of spiritual sunlight a few times a day. It's just like he says, the same way that we need 3 meals a day, we need 3 spiritual meals a day, and that's what tefillah is. And he says on a deeper level, that's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is the body, the soul coming back to the environment in which it is most comfortable. So if we can learn how to actually use some of this stuff, it becomes a very energizing experience. You come out feeling refreshed, like you just, you recharge the batteries. Yeah.
So, can we learn how to apply it? You
want to do a meditation?
I've looked at meditation. I used to be really into it, and the little YouTube videos, the podcasts, and the guided stuff. I never actually, I was breathing regulation, calming down a bit, but I never.
Sure. Why not? We can do a meditation sometime.
What you're meaning, we're saying these things, but I'm trying to picture.
I know somebody, I think, who just launched a Jewish meditation app. I don't know the name of it yet, but I can find it, but it's a really good idea. It's a really good idea because right now people are using Headspace. It's very nice, but it's not rooted in anything Jewish, I even know some Jews who are using Sam Harris's meditation app, and he's one of the most notorious atheists in the world. So, although he is Jewish, but it doesn't really count. Yeah, Ruti.
I was just going to say Esther is really good with this. That she's led this in her class last semester. That she literally has the meditation of God's name and how you meditate on it, and she can do it.
Yeah, so there are resources out there. There are definitely ways to tap into this. Now, the reason why I find he doesn't mention Shabbos in this, but this I found was the best way to express the bridge that I'm trying to, the gap that I'm trying to bridge here between how we started the course and where we are now, which is, okay, I get it. You go look at the Gemara Masechet Shabbos, or you look at the Shulchan Aruch that deals with Shabbos, and it's all about all the things you cannot do. And then in one little section, it says, by the way, you're supposed to have Oneg Shabbos. And then I'm here telling you, Oneg Shabbos is the point of it all. We're supposed to get to this point of pure bliss and ecstasy and feeling this incredible sense of belonging and home and familiarity while we're in Shabbos. And you're like, but how does one stem from the other? The Piasetzner Rebbe is telling you exactly how to do it. In the same way that our minds are full of outer layers that are clothing and cloaking that spark of the divine, and if only we were able to remove those layers, we would immediately get to God. That's what the laws of Shabbos are trying to get us to do. Removing all the layers of, I'm going to build this, I'm going to cook this, I'm going to grind this, I'm going to color that. All these things about how my aspirations and my goals and how I want to build and how I want to express myself in the world. With each removal of those malachas, what are you doing? You're getting back to whatever is there when you take away everything else. That's Shabbos. That's what the word Shabbos means, lashuv, to return. And everyone's like, yes, I knew that, Rabbi, but this is the real meaning. It means, returning means you were already there. It's just home base. It's coming back to where you once were. You don't have to go somewhere else. You come back to what's already there. Subtraction. And in the same way that this meditation is telling you that the closest and fastest way to Hashem is through subtraction, that's what Shabbos is. And all the laws of Shabbos are about subtraction. Getting out of your own way, as somebody put it to me once. Getting out of your own way. The you that's thinking about the shopping list and the television show and the ex-boyfriend and the, my career goals and all of those things, just let them quiet down for a little bit. And that's the day when you come back and you realize, wow, Hashem was there the whole time. So this is what the corner that I'm trying to turn with you guys right now is, this is how we bridge malacha and spirituality. Yeah, we'll do more of this, and we'll talk more about this and how the specific malachas actually plug into specific spiritual qualities. But this is the overall idea. Okay, any questions, comments? Yes?
The top of the page says Quiet the Noise. Is that the name of the book? Or
No, that's the name of the title of this class that I gave it. Yeah.
What's the name of it's Derech HaMelech, is the book called?
Derech HaMelech, yes. You should be able to find, it's in Hebrew, right?
Oh.
But you should be able to find online translated excerpts of the Piasetzner Rebbe. He has his meditation technique is called hashkata, from the word sheket, which means quiet. So it literally means to quiet the mind. Hashkata. So if you Google Piasetzner hashkata, you'll be able to find a translation of his meditative technique. Now, how does this relate to Purim? Purim, in a strange way, is getting us to do the same thing. Not the same technique or the same method, but it's getting us to do the same thing. So I brought for you an excerpt from the Maharal where he speaks about what's the idea of drinking on Purim. What's the idea of drinking on Purim, which represents the whole theme of Purim itself? He says, the days of Purim involve a different concept. The Kadosh Baruch Hu saved them from Haman because a person in truth is of no significance and has no helper of his own. And since a person is of no significance, it's like he's nothing. In other words, when you whittle it all down, when you boil it all down, your personality, your ego, it's what is it? It's nothing. It's here today, gone tomorrow. We think of ourselves as being significant. I always ask people, like, can you name one famous singer from the 1940s? One famous movie actress? Anyone?
Somewhere?
1940s.
She's in the 40s.
Maybe one of you can name one thing. So whatever is the most famous person you can think of who's alive right now today, in 70 years, no one will know who they are. So just think about that. Whatever to you is like the most significant thing happening in the world right now. In 70 years, probably, maybe if it's lucky, we'll make it into a footnote of a history book somewhere.
Yeah.
How many pogroms can you name from the 1800s? Now, I'm not downplaying it, but what I'm saying is that history has a way of contextualizing everything. You know? Yeah, what? Bush.
Wasn't that? Am I getting the dates wrong? What are the dates?
What are you talking about?
I'm trying to name people still.
Oh, in the 1940s? Buster Keaton was the 1920s, so there you go. That was silent film. There you go. Now, but this is just so interesting because it's like, really, like, just think about what is this, what's going to be important in 100 years from now that's happening today? Not a lot. Very, very little makes it that far. Now, when we think about ourselves, we can think of ourselves as like big, significant, honorable people. And I've told you often, okay, fair enough. I've told you often enough that there is something very important about seeing ourselves as made b'tselem Elokim, the Orat Saf from the Altar of Zabudka, telling people for their entire adult lives that you are significant. There's something very divine and very important about you. But at the end of the day, compared to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, we're nothing. Now, how does this help? The fact that a person is nothing significant is due to the physical body. Our physical bodies are what are finite. That's what makes us here today and gone tomorrow. Therefore, on Purim, you have to become intoxicated. Why? I know you're not going to like this. When he is intoxicated and doesn't know the difference between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai, then what is a person worth when his intellect is removed? When you take away the most important part of yourself, what is left? The answer is virtually nothing. And since he's worth nothing from this perspective, a Kadosh Baruch Hu sustains and upholds him. In other words, exactly as the Piazetz is saying, when you remove the ego, when you remove the personality, when you remove all your trivial concerns about your life, what's left? Hashem. That's it. Elsewhere he says, the mistake of Haman was that Haman threw the poor and it landed on Adar, which is the last month of the year, and it's the day that Moshe died. The month that Moshe died. And he says, oh, good, it's the end of the year. It's the end. It's destruction, right? But what happens when we end ourselves? What happens when we remove ourselves? All you get is just God. You just get God. That's what's left. So that's what I was telling you, by the way. This is why we say Chayav Inish Libsume. A person has to get spiced in Purim. How does Besamim work? You grind it up and grind it up and grind it up to reveal the inner smell. So you destroy the outer layer in order to get something on the inside. Getting drunk is destroying the intellect so that you get something way, way, way deeper, if you can tap into it. Otherwise, you just become a fool who throws up on people's couches.
This is where the issue is. A lot of people can't.
That's right. You need to know yourself, and you need to know how tapped in are you. Because if you can do it well, then you do reveal something good smelling. You haven't been around people who do it right. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you've never seen it in person. They said Rav Yisrael Salanter used to drink and drink and drink, and he would just become wiser and deeper and more profound until the moment he passed out on the floor. Now that's Rav Yisrael Salanter. Not saying that I'm a Yisrael Salanter. Yes.
Even if the rabbi was so, the rabbi Sana, they drink whatever they saw like amazing people, but I saw like they change. Like they don't, like,
it reveals Nichnas Yain V'Yotzi Sod. The wine goes in and the secret comes out.
And I think it's just like I don't know, like carving the walls, like I don't think it's...
So I'll tell you like this, in the same way that if you're like a businesswoman and you walk into a music festival, you will think people are nuts, right? But they're tapped in. They've changed their state of consciousness. So they're operating on a whole different level. So when you come in with your rational brain, you're like, these people are acting like idiots. Now, sometimes they are, but very often you go to holy people on Purim and you see them drinking and the outer layer slowly fades away so that something really beautiful comes out. I don't want to speak anecdotally.
He was crying and then he was crying because he's a lady and he's a Kohen. He's left-handed and he's actually sobbing.
That's amazing. So he's yearning and desiring for a connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. There's nothing more special and powerful. If only we could get to that in our tefillahs.
I disagree.
Okay, you're allowed to disagree. I think I think it comes down to a question of have you seen this done correctly? And if not, then I don't blame you. that it doesn't make sense. Now let's just finish here. The Maharal says, thus during the time of Haman, when he just sought to destroy Israel and eliminate their very bodies, and they had no help except from Kadosh Baruch Hu, who sustains a person precisely because he is obligated, because he's nothing of his own. He's nothing of his own. It's the realization that when you break us down, we are nothing. We don't save ourselves. We don't aid ourselves. We may act like it. We may be required, obligated by the Torah to do hishtadlus and to try and to fight, right? In the Purim story, they didn't just sit there and say, God will save us. They did fight with the realization that it is not they who is saving themselves.
Did they fight or did they just solve and fast?
They fought. They killed all their enemies on the 14th and the 15th. That's right. You start by sobbing and fasting because you come to a recognition that I am nothing. And once you come from that place of I'm nothing, then you're everything.
But before the war, before they got to the war, what really saved them was Esther, changing that decree and Ahasuerus.
But then they had to fight. They still couldn't sit around and say, well, God will save us, They had to fight. That's all I'm saying. The only point I'm making is to getting to the point of the realization of I'm nothing does not mean you now go sit and you stop eating and you just let God take over. There's now a you, but it's a regenerated you that's coming from a place that's much higher. Therefore, you're obligated to become intoxicated on Purim until you don't know the difference. At that point, there's nothing left of the person. And when a person is reduced to nothing, his existence is upheld solely by a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now, the point is the Maharal is bringing out a pattern here. The pattern of intoxication is what echoes the theme of Purim as a whole, is that when you try to destroy us, what you're really doing is, what's that meme? They tried to bury us, but they realized that we were seeds, right? Something like that. And they tried to bury us, but they realized we were seeds and we just sprouted or something like that.
They tried to kill us, we won, so let's eat.
Oh no, but this is different. It's you tried to break me down and destroy me until you realize that when you destroy me, you only reveal God. That's what's going on here. That's the whole theme of Purim. Yes.
Well, isn't it also the whole reason Ahasuerus fell in the first place because he wanted more power, so he really destroyed himself, but also he is
Well, how long you mean?
no. Yeah.
What was the point you're saying?
Ahasuerus wanted more power to establish absolute control.
Okay.
So he tried to get rid of Vashti, which means then he got Esther.
Yeah.
And then he brought about his own fall.
Yeah, so that's true with every part in the Purim story, right? Is that every act of malice and evil ends up becoming the instrument for good.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's the idea here. Exactly. Is that what our destruction is our creation. When we're on the brink of annihilation, that's when is revealed the deepest parts of us. So again, you see the connection that I'm making here between what I was saying on Shabbos and what I'm saying about Purim, is that all of these are meditations in getting past the outer layers of who we think we are to get to the real essence of who we are, which is this ray of light, this divine spark. And if I can peel away the layers, then I get to something way holier and way deeper than I ever thought was possible. And it's in me. It's there the whole time. It's not far away. So, okay. Now, I'm trying to figure out, Chaya, how we would do this practically if people want to do an actual meditation session.
We were outside.
Well, not today, obviously, because we've run out of time, but maybe, I don't know, if people are up for it next week. You have to be open to it. It's not crazy stuff, and I'm not going to ask you to think about childhood wounds or anything like that, but you do have leave therapy to one of the other teachers or something. I'm sure they're better at it than I am, but this is just an aspect of techniques for learning how to just quiet the mind a little bit and create a little bit of space and to see what's left, see what's there.
And he's saying that it's not just on Shabbos. He's saying every day.
This is something you can do every day, but the ultimate expression of that is Shabbos. The ultimate expression is the full day where you are aided by halacha to help remove as many of those outer layers as possible.